This Source Speaks transmission is dedicated to understanding truth and trust. I've been shown many areas of the mind over the last few months, feeling the external pressures and chaos, helping me and guiding me to tune my mind and take the time and energy to tremendously focus. And how much energy it takes, a tremendous amount of energy, to stay clear and true to oneself when there is many externalized pressures and pullings happening simultaneously on a personal level, a collective level, an unconscious level. And when there's a lot of psychic energy in the field, it can grasp and hold on to the thought processes without us even knowing. They tend to be little glitches or grooves that we can fall into without deliberately directing the mind. I was noticing how difficult it is for me to get out of the habit of falling into a negative thought pattern when there's a stressor or uncomfortable situation that the mind tends to chew on and regurgitate every aspect of a scenario, typically defending itself or proving right or wrong, bracing against a future experience and replaying it in the mind, or replaying an old conversation, a past interaction, and playing out all the different scenarios and things that I wish I said or could have done. And the mind is either living in the past or the future. And when I pull all my awareness back to present time and feel the heart in the 0 point of the now, everything is fine and everything is existing simultaneously. And then it's like catching a wave. The mind will drift off and hop onto a train of thought. And then I find myself needing to repeat that process and just pull everything back to the now. So in my conversations with Source and asking, why is this happening? What can be done? More people must be experiencing this if I am having difficulty focusing my mind after a tremendous amount of practice and spiritual teachings. And I thought it was fruitful to talk to Source and share with you these lessons and these blessings. So the mind is always regurgitating the past or projecting into the future. It is designed to do this way, to act this way. It is a defense mechanism that is set up for protection. It is here to help you and serve you, and then it can run out of control. Almost like an AI program that has already been calibrated to fear, defend, attack, and worry. And it is possible to override the systems and consciously choose the thoughts. However, that will take a tremendous amount of effort to reprogram unless it's all given up to Source. At that level, things can be done instantaneously, and yet there is a trust in this truth that must be embraced to hand it all over to the guidance of spirit that most humans have difficulty with. Difficulty with that level of believing and belonging. It's important to know that there are many ways to get to the same end point, and sometimes taking the long way is the hero's journey. There is no rush, there is no one path. But it's also important to know that giving it all up to spirit is the shortest path, the path of least resistance, the path of ease and most allowance. We can hammer enough particles into place in order to build things ourselves, or we can allow them to be rearranged and constructed in our name, on our path. And the mind will have a lot of difficulty wrapping itself around this concept of trust and truth when it sees in the external world a reflection of its own programming. And this program is not good or bad, it's here to serve your ability to choose, and the contrast is serving you well. The internal guidance system is always leading you back to source. If you can truly decipher and understand what your emotions are telling you, there needs to be a complete recalibration on the mental, emotional, physical, and psycho-spiritual levels simultaneously. Not just one, but all need to be functioning in perfect harmony, harmonic coding. This can be extremely difficult and arduous for the mind to comprehend. And when it is given over to high self, sourcial being, it can all be done simultaneously and instantaneously, which goes beyond the logic of the mind. And if you are having trouble trusting in this process, fear not, fret not, because that is the mind's job, is to keep you alive. And how could it possibly give over the reins to something that is unseen, the invisible? It goes beyond the logic and the programming. The mind can never get you there. There are not enough pathways or work hours in a day to hammer it all into place. And the good news is with all the moving parts, there are too many for the mind to focus on. So at some point, surrender is part of the wisdom path. It is only through this process of complexity that the mind finally ventures into new territory. The word surrender itself has a misconception in the way the general public is using it. Surrender and letting go of the reins and giving up to a higher power is the most courageous act that can be done as a human, because it goes against the design and program. It is much easier for the mind to convince itself to stay in control and to do everything bit by bit, piece by piece, linear time. To work as one harmonious cooperative system with the holographic reality takes a tremendous leap of faith and creative genius for the larger understanding of how the universe is designed, moving into the hollow spheres and the higher octave of multidimensional reality. It's like a graduation going from kindergarten to college all in a day. It is not necessary to read every book and study every formula in this new way of being, because the hologram contains the whole and everything is given instantaneously on all levels. And this cannot be comprehended previous to experience. So please, my dear, do not wait for trust to come in order to take the leap. It will not happen. There are many options in this plane of existence. And another option is to keep oneself quite simplified. And living a simple life, a Buddha life, is admirable. And there is no hierarchy in the planes of existence that we are speaking from. Simplicity can hold the key to keeping the life at a certain octave. When more moving pieces and parts come into play, one must surrender to the divine powers in order to be part of that symphony. I'm seeing an orchestration, literally an orchestra, where one person trying to run around and play every instrument at the same time is an impossible task. And yet an orchestra exists, and the role of the conductor is to keep everyone in tune and in step. And we are not the orchestra or the conductor. We are the sound that comes off, that is made from this harmonious, collaborative. We are the sound, the vibration that is made from this orchestration. Understanding truth comes from one's own perspective and life experience. The truth is, there is no one path, and you need not convince anyone of anything, because their truth will always differ and vary from your life experience. Getting out of the habit of right and wrong, defending, blaming, attacking, dualistic polarity is the most important work to activate and increase one's vibrational state to match the higher octave that you're already operating at. The self is existing in many planes of reality simultaneously. This is not a philosophy. This is something that is experiential when one sheds the excess layers of the belief systems that are holding them into a certain version of reality. So to exist in the version of the world that you want to see these dampened lower vibrational levels must be shed or released, canceled, recalibrated. There's many words to describe this process of alchemy, of transmutation, transformation. I am seeing an absurd amount of injustice happening in the world at this current time. To feel my power point in place in strongly choosing the version of reality that I want to play in. There is a habit of holding on to the past and projecting into the future that is blocking the natural flow of energy that comes when aligning to this place. Source connection. And the big work right now for the human race is to operate in the many states of consciousness. There's a lot of talk of theta, beta, alpha, delta, gamma, brainwave states. These are not just brainwave states. These are literally planes of existence, slices of time and space where different versions of self exist. When they become blended and integrated into the whole, they become hollow spheres instead of slices of time, slices of energy. The blending of the different states is a releasing of the belief systems and thought patterns that keep it all separate. This rearranging of the brain functionality opens up new pathways, new gamma rays of energies that release the barriers. The fear for the mind is the need to be able to navigate and function in the world. And the fear is the loss of memory, the loss of functionality, the loss of linear time. The mind, the belief systems, and the thought patterns do not want to let go in order to take the next leap of faith. And yet the current reality is crumbling and dismantling because the evolution of the soul is inevitable. We're constantly growing, expanding, becoming more. It's similar to the turbulence of the high and low pressure systems for weather. When one system butts up against another system, there is a turbulent space where they're both existing but not fully blending or equalizing with one another. There is a merging and converging within the soul essence that creates a calm and a state of radiance. When these energies become blended and complementary. I'm being shown that experience and feeling it deep in my body, where it is an amplification in the field, the harmonic resonance and all seemingly opposites drop into 0 point. We no longer need to put up the barriers and walls and degrees of separation in order to stay sovereign and whole. Only when one looks outside themselves do they feel the capacity for protection is necessary. There are many aspects of the self, the parts that feel calm, the parts that feel anxious, the parts that feel angry, the parts that feel at peace. They all can come back together now within oneself. No denying or suppressing or repressing. And when this happens and all the energies come back online and the hollow spheres are operating in their highest resonance, and there's no longer a need to attract the polarity in the external world, there will be an instantaneous harmonic and resonance in training the field without the turbulence when coming up against a different pressure system. It will cool and calm and absorb, expand, amplify the field, with the highest vibration always winning. My body is recalibrating and tuning itself to this new understanding. The deeper knowing that has always been there is embraced when the fear is released. Tuning and toning oneself on a moment-to-moment basis, a daily basis, a regular basis, is key for entraining the field. The field exists always, eternally. Our alignment with it is a practice, is a discipline, is a commitment. And there are many, many versions that will be pulling, alluring, guiding one's attention if the reins are given over to another force. The words are selected carefully in this space, as they should be in all conversations. Since we are co-creating in this space, always be mindful, be careful, be wise. Be aligned and attuned. And allow more of your source energy to pulse through by making room and space for the new. Aho, namaste, aloha.